In at number 10, Jesse Luken. Glee actor Jesse Luken, who played the character of Bobby Boom Boom Surratt, was busted in 2018 for a DUI when he crashed his car. Local Glendale law enforcement told TMZ that they received calls of a car crash, and when they arrived on the scene, found Luken's Toyota up on the curb with the airbags deployed. No other cars seemed to be involved in the crash, and his right front tire was absolutely mangled. Jesse reeked of booze and utterly failed his field sobriety test, which then led to probable cause to arrest him for driving under the influence. Jesse was part of the show for most of 2012, but just like his fellow co-stars, his life has been in turmoil since his departure from the show. I know these may seem like curses, but I think at the root this is more of a problem with Hollywood actors or Hollywood in general, and just allowing them to kind of do whatever they want. I'm sure we'll see more examples of that later on. In at number 9, Becca Tobin. Becca Tobin played the role of Kitty Wilde on Glee from 2012 to 2015, and although she seems to have made it out unscathed, her boyfriend was not so lucky. Her boyfriend was a nightclub owner named Matt Bendick, and unfortunately in 2014 he was found dead in a hotel room in Philadelphia. According to those close to the family, Becca and Matt were believed to have been on a business trip at the time of the tragedy. His family believes that he may have died from a heart attack amid the stress brought on by managing all of these businesses in his life. The eerie thing is that this happened 1 year after the death of Tobin's co-star Cory Monteith. According to TMZ, a hotel maid found Bendick's body at around 1 p.m. and law enforcement sources say that the housekeeper found the body on the bed face down. Bendick ran several major clubs around the country, but especially in Los Angeles, which is where he was the director of operations at the DBA nightclub. He also was a co-owner of AV nightclub, and according to his friends, he was not known as a partier. On Instagram, Becca posted a tribute to her boyfriend saying, "Thank you all for the love and support. Matt was the most extraordinary man I knew, and he will live in my heart forever." In at number 8, Jim Fuller. Jim Fuller was the assistant director of Glee and had been part of the crew for a long time. Out of the tragic endings that have befallen most of the Glee cast, Jim passed away due to natural causes. Jim was 41 at the time and passed in his sleep due to heart failure. In season 4 of the show, they actually did a tribute for him, and when Emma and Shu are having their wedding seat chat, a chair can actually be seen in the foreground with Jim's name on it. It was a nod to the longtime crew member who was loved by so many. To speculate on this Glee curse that everyone is obsessed with, I think it was more so the pressure of the show that caused a lot of terrible outcomes for all of those involved. Again, as I mentioned, Hollywood has a tendency of breaking even the strongest of people. Jim may have suffered from heart failure because of the stress of working on the show year after year. A heavy work schedule with long filming days for several years isn't the best way to keep your heart in a healthy state. In at number 7, Lea Michele. Something that adds to the pressure of filming is who you have to work with. If you're working in a toxic environment day after day and the person bullying you is the star, this can have some nasty outcomes. Lea Michele has been accused by several people for being kind of an absolute nightmare to work with. Her co-star Matthew Morrison appeared via Zoom on Fubar Radio's Access All Areas and was asked about Lea's bullying, and he seemed to get visibly uncomfortable. He immediately attempted to downplay the accusations and shift topics by saying that bigger issues are going on in the world right now. He's not wrong, but this is also something we need to discuss. Here's a prime example of why the cast has had such a terrible time following the show. I think that whatever went on behind the scenes was kept hidden from the public. They play these cheerful high school kids, but in reality they were all adults with some demons. Now, with Matt not acknowledging the accusations made against Lea and covering for her, it only discredits what these people have kind of opened up to say about her. In at number 6, Samantha Ware. One of Lea Michele's accusers is Samantha Marie Ware, who appeared in the show in season 6 as the character Jane Hayward. The accusation was that Lea had participated in traumatic microaggressions that made her reconsider her career. This came to light when Lea Michele tweeted about Black Lives Matter following the death of George Floyd. Samantha replied to this tweet saying, "Remember when you made my first television gig a living hell? Because I'll never forget. I believe you told everyone that if you had the opportunity, you would in my wig." Amongst other traumatic microaggressions that made me question a career in Hollywood. Lea Michele, who played the character Rachel Berry, apologized for her behavior towards Ware, but due to this tweet, Lea ended up losing her sponsorship with HelloFresh because of the accusations. Racial discrimination on set could be a very good reason this show might be cursed, at least culturally. In number 5, Amber Riley. Amber Riley, who played Mercedes Jones on the show, said that she received many notes from actors of color who had, let's say, less than perfect interactions on the set of Glee. While speaking on Instagram Live with journalist Danielle Young, they discussed racism while on set. In the video, Amber said, "In my inbox, there are a lot of black actors and actresses telling me their stories and letting me know they have dealt with the same things being on set, being terrorized by the white girls that are the leads of the show." I mean, that gonna be traumatic. It's gonna cause some problems. In number 4, Nancy Moats. This one was really heartbreaking, and it came a year after Monteith and Jim Fuller had just passed. Nancy was not only the sister of Julia Roberts, but she also worked as a production assistant on Glee. At the age of 37, she died after drowning in a bathtub, though. Police reported that there were prescription and non-prescription pills where she was, and a suicide note was found as well. She claimed in her final note that Julia Roberts specifically had been so cruel to her that she drove her into the deepest depression she had ever been in. Following the death of Nancy and Jim, fellow production assistant Christina Legman spoke to the Daily Mail about the concern of Glee being cursed. Christina said, "She was such a good friend to me, it's just shocking. Yes, she had her own little struggles, but when we got together, we just bonded and she never let them get to her. It's such a shock. What with Cory passing last year, then we had a crew member, Jim Fuller, die, now we've got this hit and it's almost too much. Glee was like a family. We spent 12 hours a day together. We would refer to each other as the Glee family." In number 3, Cory Monteith. In 2013, Michelle's on-screen and real-life boyfriend Cory Monteith died at age 31 from an accidental drug and alcohol overdose. The actor who played Finn Hudson was open about his struggles with addiction before his death. The British Columbia Coroner Service said investigators found a spoon with drug residue and a used hypodermic needle in the hotel room where his body was found. The coroner Claire Thompson said in a report that she would classify his death as accidental, adding that Mr. Monteith was found in a collapsed position on the hotel room floor and appeared to have been dead for several hours. Cory's death was also written into the show that year in an episode called The Quarterback, though they never revealed how his character died in the show, although you could see the pain in everyone's face as they did their very best to honor his memory. His mother Anne McGregor spoke about her son's death to People magazine and explained that she took her son to rehab at ages like 15 and 19, even saying that his curiosity led him into a dark world that would further consume him. According to his mother, he also began using drugs after landing his role on Glee. In her opinion, he wasn't ready for the Hollywood world and drugs were his way of checking out. In at number 2, Mark Salling. Mark was cast in the TV show Glee in 2008, playing American football star Noah Puckerman. During his 6 seasons for the show, his performances led to Salling being nominated for a Teen Choice Award for Male Breakout Star. After police were reportedly tipped off by one of the star's ex-girlfriends, he was arrested on December 29, 2015, but wasn't charged with receiving and possessing child pornography until May 27, 2016. On January 30th, TMZ reported that Salling had taken his own life just weeks before he was due to be jailed over these charges. His lawyer would later confirm the death of the actor, who was found dead in a field close to where he lived. The haunting part about this is that people are pointing to an episode of the show where this very thing was predicted. Last but certainly not least, on our number 1 spot, Naya Rivera. Naya Rivera played the character of cheerleader Santana Lopez in 113 episodes of the hit musical show. In November 2017, though, she was arrested for domestic battery, and the 31-year-old's then-husband, actor Ryan Dorsey, told the deputy that she struck him in the head and face. The couple were reportedly arguing over their son, but the charges were then dropped in January of 2018 after Dorsey decided not to seek prosecution. The couple finalized their divorce in June 2018 after nearly 4 years of marriage. As I say this, though, we are deeply saddened to learn that she has gone missing after her son was found alone in a pontoon boat on Lake Pyro. They are assuming that she had drowned, but the Ventura County Sheriff's Office has regularly been posting updates saying that they will continue to search for her. Following the 911 call, they tweeted, "Multiple teams of professional search and rescue personnel are actively searching Lake Pyro for clues to the location of Naya Rivera. With over 80 people involved in the search right now, we are using helicopters, boats, ATV vehicles, and ground personnel to try and locate her. Hopefully she will be found soon so that her family can at least be at peace." I mean, the tragedies that have been followed in the cast of Glee have come from all angles, and I hope I didn't offend anyone by speculating that the show may be cursed because of these accidents. I mean, they're certainly all tragic, and again, with Naya Rivera, we just wish the best to her family.
Lea Michele was exposed in 2020 for being terrible to work with. There were also allegations that she had been racist to a handful of her past co-workers. I'm Mackenzie, and let's get into the celebrities who tried to warn us about Lea Michele. But first, make sure to subscribe if you're new here. First up, we got Samantha Ware. Samantha Ware started the entire downfall of Lea Michele back in 2020 after she called out Michele for the way that she acted on the set of Glee. Ware appeared on season 6 of Glee, and she didn't get along well with Lea. When Lea Michele posted tweets in support of George Floyd after his passing, Ware decided to call out Michele on the hypocrisy. She commented, quote, "Remember when you made my first television gig a living hell?" adding that Michele was microaggressive towards her, and even threatened to defecate in her wig, if you can believe that. Ware's experience with Michele was so bad that it made her question a career in the industry. Michele later apologized for her behavior, but Ware did not accept and told Lea to open her purse if she really wanted to help. Next up, Amber Riley. Amber Riley is another Glee cast member that had terrible things to say about Leah. Riley was a cast member for all 6 seasons of Glee, so she definitely knew the true Leah. After Samantha Ware's comments, Riley weighed in by posting some gifs of her sipping tea, clearly commenting on what was going on. Riley weighed in further during an interview on Real Quick with Danielle Young. She explained that she did not believe that Leah was racist, but she just believed that she was a stuck-up brat who was power-tripping on everyone. However, Riley did say that just because Leah might not be a racist doesn't mean that race doesn't play a factor in these bad interactions. Adding, quote, "In my inbox there are a lot of black actors and actresses telling me their stories and letting me know that they have dealt with the same things on set, being terrorized by the white girls that are leads of the show." So clearly it's something that really needs to be discussed in the industry. Next up, Heather Morris. Glee's Heather Morris did not hold back when sharing her disdain of Leah. After Leah's behavior became a topic of conversation, Morris was shy at first, but later became very vocal against the star. Morris tweeted out that she didn't want to send more hate to Leah at the time, but she confirmed that Leah was very unpleasant to work with and was very disrespectful to everyone on set. And Morris believed that Leah needed to be called out for her behavior. When speaking about race, Morris said that she could not comment on if she thought Leah was racist, but that was the assumption at the time. Morris later revealed that while filming Glee, everyone was way too scared to speak up to the Fox executives. However, she's glad it's a different time and there's more of a demand for respect on set, saying, quote, "We absolutely could have stepped up and gone to the Fox execs and said how we really felt about the situation, and no one really did. Now we're living in a culture where it's acceptable to do things like that, whereas I think many people were very scared." Next up, Yvette Nicole Brown. Yvette Nicole Brown and Lea Michele starred in a short-lived show on ABC called The Mayor. And even though Brown is never involved in Hollywood drama, she spoke up about her time with Michele after Samantha Ware publicly tweeted out against her. Brown responded to Ware's initial tweet, writing, quote, "I felt every one of those capital letters. Every person on a set matters. Every person on a set deserves respect. And it's the responsibility of every series regular to make every person who visits their home feel welcome. This dismissive attitude is what's wrong in Hollywood and the world." And although Brown never mentioned Leah by name here, many assume that Michele exhibited the same behavior on the set of that show, and that's what caused her to speak out. Brown also spoke about her time on the hit show Community, saying the experience was not as toxic, with Brown saying that someone defecating in her wig was something that never would have been said on the Community set. And thank God for that. Gerard Canonico. Gerard Canonico worked alongside Michele when they were an understudy in the play Spring Awakening. Canonico actually commented on Lea Michele's Instagram apology after she started receiving tons of backlash. However, his comment was suspiciously deleted. Wonder what happened. So he commented again, writing, quote, "My first comment seems to have been deleted, so I'll try again. You were nothing but a nightmare to me and fellow understudy cast members. You made us feel like we didn't belong there. I tried for years to be nice to you to no avail. Maybe actually apologize instead of placing the blame on how others, quote, perceive you. You'll probably just delete this though." This comment clearly taking a shot at the part in Michele's apology where she said that people perceived their negative experiences with her. Next up, Abigail Breslin. Abigail Breslin and Lea Michele worked alongside each other in the show Scream Queens. If you haven't seen it, it's actually one of my favorite shows. Breslin is probably the most high-profile actor to speak out against Michele. However, since Breslin did not want to get caught up in drama, she decided to like some negative tweets about Michele instead, basically in order to get her point across but not actually speak out directly. Breslin liked a tweet that said, quote, "Not everyone agreeing that something felt off about Lea Michele. Where have y'all been? I've been saying this for years. I thought I was alone." So clearly Breslin agreed with the sentiment that something felt off about Leah, and people tried to speak up about it for years. Next up, Naya Rivera. Naya Rivera was the only person that had the guts to share their feelings about Lea Michele before she was exposed by Samantha Ware. The two worked alongside each other for all seasons of Glee, so Rivera got an inside look into Michele's true character. The two actually got into a big fight on set in 2014, and Rivera exposed it in her memoir that was published in 2016. Rivera says the two started off as friends, but over time they started to hate each other. Rivera believed this was partially because her character of Santana moved from a background character to a main one over time, and Michele didn't like sharing the spotlight. A few years later, it seemed that the two had partially made up, and on a 2019 episode of Watch What Happens Live, Rivera said that her and Michele had no bad blood, and she even liked Michele's Instagram engagement post. However, it's wild to hear that she had such a bad experience with Michele, especially being a woman of color. And lastly, Elizabeth Aldrich. Broadway actress Elizabeth Aldrich was Lea Michele's understudy in the Broadway show Ragtime. This was early in both their careers, and even as a child, apparently Michele was a nightmare to work with. Aldrich shared a statement on Twitter along with a picture of both of them as children. Aldrich said in part that Michele was awful to work with, adding, quote, "She demeaned the crew and threatened to have people fired if she was in any way displeased. I used to cry every night from the mean and manipulative things she would do. She was 12. She was terrifying." Aldrich went on to say that she's no longer in the acting world, but she wanted to share her story of working with Michele to validate other people's stories about her. Aldrich also added that she hopes that becoming a mother changes Lea's behavior.
Starting off this countdown, we have her wickedness. Pun intended. So just recently, Ariana Grande let her followers know that she'll be starring in the upcoming Wicked movie with Tony-winning actor Cynthia Erivo, a role that Lea wanted to get. If you've seen Glee, then you know that Lea's character Rachel Berry even sang "Defying Gravity" from Wicked. In 2019, Lea said it would be incredible if she could be in Wicked. But that won't be happening, and people think it's because of Lea's own wicked behavior. She has been exposed by a number of her fellow acting colleagues. People have called her rude, terrifying, manipulative, and a nightmare, among other things. From 2006 to 2008, Lea starred in the Broadway musical Spring Awakening. Fellow cast member Marcus S. Daniels said that Michele was, and I quote, "abusive, rude, condescending, and at many times downright cruel." He continued on calling her out, saying, "There was no excuse for your behavior. You have so much talent, but there is so much hate within your heart. Everyone who has worked with you carries those memories with them." So it seems like Lea is literally Rachel in real life. Moving on to number 9, we have the living hell. Earlier this year, during the Black Lives Matter movement, Lea tweeted out in support. She tweeted, and I quote, "George Floyd did not deserve this. This was not an isolated incident and it must end." And then she used the hashtag Black Lives Matter. Well, Samantha Ware, former Glee cast member, responded to that tweet and called Lea out. In all caps, she tweeted, "LMAO, remember when you made my first television gig a living hell? 'Cause I'll never forget. I believe you told everyone that if you had the opportunity, you would in my wig," amongst other traumatic microaggressions that made me question a career in Hollywood. That is insane. Another time, Lea didn't like how Samantha was acting on set and threatened to have her fired. Needless to say, she makes sets a living hell. In our 8th spot, we have being unpleasant. Another Glee co-star, Heather Morris, ended up tweeting out in support of Samantha, coming forward calling out Lea Michele. She said, and I quote, "Was she unpleasant to work with? Very much so. For Lea to treat others with the disrespect that she did for as long as she did, I believe she should be called out." Then, former RuPaul's Drag Race contestant Willem also came forward. Willem made an appearance on the 4th season of Glee. They said, and I quote, "Lea treated me so subhuman, I left the set of Glee. Pass the popcorn." Nobody wants to work in a toxic environment. Good for them for leaving. Coming in our 7th spot, we have being disrespectful. Lea Michele can officially add being disrespectful to her list of talents on her acting resume. One of her former co-stars and understudy for Spring Awakening tweeted out saying, "You were nothing but a nightmare to me and fellow understudy cast members. You made us feel like we didn't belong there. I tried for years to be nice to you to no avail. Maybe actually apologize instead of placing the blame on how others perceive you." You'll probably just delete this though. He's not the only understudy to come forward though. Elizabeth Aldrich was Lea's understudy in Ragtime in 1998, and she said, and I quote, "She was absolutely awful to me and the ensemble. She demeaned the crew and threatened to have people fired if she was in any displeased. I used to cry every night from the mean and manipulative things she would do. She was 12. She was terrifying." Dude, she was only 12 and already had an attitude problem? And if sets condone this behavior, then she thinks that she can continue to get away with it, so she won't change her ways at all. In our 6th spot today, we have the dictator. Lea Michele believes the world revolves around her. I'm sure you can tell that by now. When on set, she thinks that she has the power to dictate what goes on. For example, if someone gets on her nerves, Lea will apparently try to get them fired. Well, another person that exposed Lea would be actor Davier Snell. He appeared on one episode of Glee in 2014. He tweeted saying, "Girl, you wouldn't let me sit at the table with the other cast members cause I didn't belong there. F you, Lea." Yikes. Okay, but Lea, that's not a very welcoming thing to do. She's literally just a big bully. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the racism. A number of cast members of color have come forward saying they felt that Leah's hate towards them was racially motivated. Then 30 Rock actor Keith Powell came forward and said, and I quote, "Lea Michele is a terrible human and has said terrible things to many different types of people, including racist microaggressions to/about black people," which is seemingly why Samantha was so ticked off about Leah's tweet about George Floyd. She's not practicing what she's been preaching. After word got out about Leah's behavior, HelloFresh dropped her from their partnership. They said that they do not condone racism nor discrimination of any kind, nor should anyone. In our 4th spot, we have the drama. On a number of sets, Lea has been known to try and star drama. On Glee, Lea tried to star drama with Naya Rivera. In an interview, she revealed, and I quote, "Lea and I were like two sides of the same battery. We are both strong-willed and competitive, not just with each other, but with everyone, and that's not a good mixture." As the show progressed, especially as Santana moved from a background character to one with bigger plot lines and more screen time, I think Lea, didn't like sharing the spotlight. It seemed like she blamed me for anything and everything that went wrong. If I'd complain about anyone or anything, she'd assume I was bitching about her. Soon she started to ignore me, and eventually it got to the point where she didn't say a word to me for all of season 6. Wow, that's tough. In our 3rd spot today, we have the attitude problem. Another one of Leah's former Glee colleagues, Chase Edmondson, outed Lea for a terrible interaction he had with her. So Chase worked in the production department for season 3 and 4 of Glee. According to him, he said, "My strongest memory of you was storming out of the Glee classroom set yelling, 'Does anyone have gum?' I was standing about 10 feet from you with gum already in hand. When I said, 'I do,' offering it to you, you just looked at me and said, 'Ew,' before walking off to Crafty on the next stage." I have no clue how she can just treat her colleagues with such disrespect. Come on now. In our 2nd spot, we have the background actors. Seems like everyone that worked with Lea Michele has been victimized by her, including the background performers. Mia Edwards was a background actor for season 6 of Glee. According to her, Lea made them feel as if they were nothing, and often referred to the background actors as cockroaches. Like what? And if any background actors looked at Lea, she'd be like, "Ugh, don't look at me, don't make eye contact, ugh, you cockroaches." That's not all though. According to her, while prepping for a scene on set, Lea, and I quote, "walked by me and burped in my face. This loud burp. Directly, almost face to face. It wasn't even like, oh, she wouldn't have known. She knew she burped in my face." 2 other people saw it and an operator said, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry she did that." I was just like, yeah, whatever, you're on set trying to be professional, you're not trying to make a huge deal about things. After the 2nd or 3rd take, she walked by me and stepped on my foot really hard. You know when you bump into someone, you can feel it. Again, nothing, no reaction, like I wasn't even there. It made me feel like I was nothing. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the look-alike. So back in September of 2009, a number of actors were hired to work as look-alikes at a Glee premiere party. These look-alikes had to resemble the show's characters and they would perform at the party. So this one girl was hired as the Rachel Berry look-alike. And listen what she had to say. She said, and I quote, "I didn't know my character was the lead, let alone who played her. When the actors arrived at the event and found out there were look-alikes of them, Lea came searching for me. When she saw me, she said, 'Oh my god, could they have picked someone uglier?' Cory Monteith saw the look on my face and said, 'Don't listen to her, she's just jealous, you're beautiful.' I never forgot that."